In the name of the Blessed One. Amen. Please be seated. We are treated to an unusual gospel today. It starts with these men, these Greeks as they are called, approaching Philip with a request. First, there is a question as to why they approached Philip. Perhaps it was he that stood closest to them. Perhaps it was because they spoke Greek and Philip is a Greek name, so they thought he would understand. We don't really know, but anything is fodder for question in the Gospels because it all means something. And then Philip did something that might have been expected. He went to Andrew. Now, Andrew isn't mentioned often in the Gospels, but when he is, most of the time, Andrew is doing one thing: introducing people to Jesus. He seemed to be the conduit. Maybe that was his role, to be responsible for who got to talk with Jesus, sort of like security. You know, Jesus was the rock star of his day. People clamored to meet him, to speak with him, or to be healed by him. It was like people today waiting at the stage door in hopes that the headliner will leave from it after the show. We know that many times Jesus had to sneak away from the crowds to get a moment of silence and a breath of fresh air. But instead of answering them or speaking to the Greeks, the conversation takes a radical shift. They asked to see him, but Jesus responded with a statement that revealed a real shift in his ministry. In verse 23, Jesus revealed this sudden shift as he said, "The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified." This is it. This is the moment it all turns. They want to see Jesus? Then this is how you will see him. Not as an itinerant healer, not as a sage, not as a teacher, but as a sacrificial lamb. In verse 23, we have turned the page. Jesus was giving them all fair warning. His thoughts turned to death, and his teaching turned there also. And then Jesus talked about grain needing to die. You know, I remember as a child we had a vegetable garden behind our house. My uncle, who lived next door to us, had grown up on a farm in Tennessee. He taught us a lot about planting and sowing. I remember planting seeds with him, and he showed me how deep and how far apart to plant them. And as I covered them with soil, I wondered how a thing buried away from sun and air could possibly sprout life. I mean, the seeds seemed to be dead, so how could they do anything? I think this is the point that Jesus was making. He would have to die to be buried away from sun and air to sprout new life. He seemed to shift gears here as his words revealed his own anguish at the challenges to come. We are in totally new territory now. If there was one thing that Jesus really did consistently, it was that he saw people, really saw them. Each person to whom he spoke, taught, or healed was a person he really saw, and not just another anonymous beggar or leper to be avoided. He saw them, and they knew it. If the Greeks wanted to see Jesus, they would really need to see him. They would need to see him as he suffered and died. They could not just see the easy parts of his story. They would have to see him all the way through. Would they even want to do that? Do we? Several years ago, I attended a day retreat during Lent. This retreat had some presentations, some time for silence, and some time for conversation. At one such moment, our talk turned to Lenten practices, and we were from different denominations. A young woman said she felt called to meditate on the cross every day during Lent. She said that when she finished her daily meditation, she did not feel lifted up, but depressed instead, and she wondered if she should continue this practice. I asked her to describe the cross on which she meditated, and she pulled a Roman Catholic rosary out of her pocket and showed me the crucifix attached to it. I gave her a suggestion that when she finished her meditation, that she turn the cross around. She was confused and asked why. And I asked her, "What's on the back of it?" "Nothing," she said. "Exactly. I think you're getting stuck in the crucifix and not moving on toward the message of the clean, victorious cross. Sometimes we must heal from our encounters with the crucifix. I explained that I think the church writ large has an unbalanced theology of the cross. In Catholic churches, you see a crucifix front and center. In Protestant churches, you see the clean cross front and center. Protestants are hard-pressed to see a crucifix in church, and Catholics are hard-pressed to see the clean cross in church. It is important for Protestants to remember that you cannot get to that clean, shiny, resurrected cross without going through the sweat and blood-stained cross first. But it's equally important that Catholics remember that the blood-stained cross always ends in the clean, victorious cross of resurrection. I told her that I think Protestants need a bit more crucifix and Catholics need a bit more clean cross. I've lived many places all over the country in my life, and there's one thing that I have noticed. In moving from place to place, from new church to new church, there's one thing that seemed consistent. There were people in every parish who were involved weekly, who came to all the services, pageants, and events throughout the year. But oftentimes, these same people would disappear at one particular moment, Lent. From Ash Wednesday until Easter, they were hard to find. Maybe they couldn't handle seeing Jesus go through the tough stuff. And this seems to be a very common phenomenon. We begin here in today's gospel to see Jesus as he struggled with his own emotions, with his own dread about what he must face in the near future. When Jesus was incarnated, he took flesh on and had the same feelings and struggles as any other human being. He took on human weakness. Now his time had come, and there was no going back. Can you imagine what any of us might think in the same set of circumstances? I know what I would think. How do I get out of this? Just as any of us, he wanted to find another way to shrink away from suffering. He could have, but he didn't. What enables Jesus to follow through? His total commitment to do things, all things necessary to bring about the glory of the Father. He had laid the groundwork. Would he abandon it now? He knew there was danger at every turn, but he also knew that he must go through it, not around it, over it, or under it, but through it. Through his action, those who had crushed the poor, whose pride knew no bounds, who were devoid of conscience would now be judged. Those who considered themselves gods would now be knocked off their pedestals. And what kind of victory did this Messiah expect? Not a victory that depended on swords and armaments. Not a victory where attack plans would be drawn up. His victory exalted him by being lifted up, by being crucified. Sounds backward, I know, but God does the unexpected. Swords and death do not glorify the Creator. Love does. Amen.